for May 27th. All right. All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to start by thanking board members and committee members for your time today. I'll be really brief here in my opening remarks. We're just going to jump right into roll call. So I'm going to go by zone, and if you don't mind confirming your attendance or your presence, and then also mentioning how long you've served in your current role. So I'll start with Susan Greenberg.
Here, and I've been in my current role 12 years.
Okay, Jessica McBride. I believe she's online. I'll give her just a minute here.
Hello, I am here. Apologies as I was switching to panelist, and I've been on, this is my second year on the budget committee.
Thank you. Okay, Zone 2, Dr. Perez.
Buenas tardes, good evening. I have been on the board for 4 years, and I just got reelected to 4 more.
Okay, next is myself, Brian Bean. This is my second year on the Budget Committee. Moving to Zone 3, Dr. Potter.
Here and year 2.
And Dr. Sears. Oh.
Here, and I've been on the Budget Committee. This is my first year.
Okay, thank you. Zone 4, Sunita.
I'm here, and this is my 4th year, and I just got reelected for another 4. Thanks.
Alec.
My name is Alok, and I have been here, I guess, 4 years as well. Oh, so thereabouts. Thank you.
Okay, Zone 5, Ugona.
Hi, this is Guna, and I've been here. This is my 4th and final year. I did not get reelected. Thank you.
She's thrilled.
Okay, and Rika.
Hi, I'm here, and this is my first year.
Okay, Zone 6, Justice.
Here, Justice Raji, and this is my second year.
And Amy.
I'm here, and this is my first year on the Budget Review Committee.
And last but not least, of course, Zone 7, Dr. Carpenter.
Present 2 years.
And Dr. Schultz.
Here, and I believe this is my 4th year in this go-around.
All right, thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Dr. Balderas for superintendent comments.
And I'll be brief as well. So I want to thank the committee for being here on this beautiful day. I know it's barbecue weather. As we talk budget tonight, there's still many unknown variables still to be determined, including the first board meeting forthcoming that could change our rates a little bit. We did have a May forecast that wasn't favorable, so it was a little down. So we're projected to be at 11.4, but there's still so many unknowns in the budget yet that what we're going to be projecting tonight is our best thinking as of now, which is going to change. Again, as for next year, as we stated earlier, we're going to be making recommendations to not have a structural deficit like we've had in the past. So it's something that we will be working with the board and staff and the community to right-size our budget to ensure that we're more stable in the out years. Right now, we're deficit spending at a quite substantial rate, and we need to really look at that to make a course correction like many other districts have recently as well. So, but again, for tonight, it's we're going to be presenting you our best budget proposal we can. And as always, if there's any changes after the board adopts their budget, we'll make some, again, we'll have communication to the budget committee and board in August if there are substantial changes. So I'm going to turn it over to our CFO, or Chief Financial Officer, Mike Schofield.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all again. Just a process reminder for us tonight. What we're going to do is you have in your packet the questions we received. Thank you for those. We've responded to those both by email earlier today, and again, you've got them listed here. It's probably at the back of your packet in terms of, and it looks like this. So these are the responses to the questions that you have asked us. We're prepared to hear any final comments you have to make, and then we'll be looking to approve the budget this evening, which does those three things. It makes the appropriations, sets the tax rates, and deals with our debt levy amount. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Committee members and school board members, in front of you is also the minutes from our agenda and our meeting on May 13th. So we need to approve these. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We'll put it to a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. All right, next on our agenda is a review of the written public comment. My understanding is that we don't have any, so that will be quickly moved through. Next, I will turn it over to Jessica Jones for a discussion of adjustments to the proposed budget.
Okay, so you should have a document inside your packet. It shows the proposed budget on the left and the recommended approved budget on the right, and there are no adjustments to the budget we are asking you to approve tonight from what we showed you on May 13th.
Okay. Okay, next agenda item is going to be Budget Committee final comments. I think we could also ask some questions if you have any final questions in that. I'll just run down, just like we did the attendance, I'll go down each zone and allow each person to make a comment or a question. So we'll start with Zone 1, Susan Greenberg.
Well, someone just told me this is my last official budget meeting ever. And I have to say that before I was a school board member, I spent 2 years on the budget committee. So I've been part of the budget committee for 14 years. And I can tell you that it has changed immensely in those 14 years. And Mike and Jessica, I just want to commend you, and Gus as well, that it's a smooth running machine that is so transparent and so appreciated. We've had some very hard years in the last 14 years. I mean, in my time, we saw, I think it was like 300 teachers, frontline teachers lose their positions. It was very chaotic, and I think, Mike, you came in right after that, and we've seen a lot of transparency and growth in our district, and I appreciate every single thing that you've done for our students and for our teachers. I can't say, the budget, current budget, what I'm going to say is, obviously, I'm sad that we're, the longer sessions are always difficult because you don't necessarily know where you're going to land. But I think this year is even more uncertain because of everything going on nationally. And I think we just need to continue to fight. We need to fight at our state level. We need to fight nationally because obviously we have a very difficult uphill battle, and I believe we are going to win in the long run, but in the short term, it's going to be hard. But thank you very much, and it's been an honor to be on the Budget Committee.
Okay, next we'll turn it over to Jessica McBride.
Yes, thank you. Quick question for Mike and the budget team. If the state school fund comes back less than anticipated in this budget, where do you anticipate making cuts? Like, what is the procedure? How will that be done?
So for us, what we'll do is what we usually do in a long session. We usually don't know exactly what our funding level is when we're asking you to approve. And in some cases, even when the board adopts the budget, we don't yet know our funding level. So we're kind of guessing at it. It'll depend just on how close it comes. I will say that the district has good reserves and has a good reserve in place that can help cushion those kinds of blows if we don't get where we need to go. But I guess what I would say is we'll take a wait and see, and we'll see where we end up. You know, we had estimated our budget using a couple $100 million more in some special education dollars. I don't think that's realistic at this point, or at least doesn't appear to be. There might be some for that, but certainly not the 200 million. On the other hand, I think on Friday, we're going to get some rate relief from the PERS board. And when that comes through, that's going to create some savings that we weren't planning on getting either. So we'll take a look at everything once it comes out, and we'll be back talking to the board, and we'll certainly communicate with the budget committee on what those next steps might be. But it'll depend, right? It'll depend on how things come out.
Absolutely. Just like thank you, Mike and Jessica, Dr. Baldairs, just all the staff for putting together this budget document that is huge and comprehensive. I appreciate all the hard work that went into it. I also really appreciate the ways that the budget aligns with the feedback that we got from the community, focusing on budget reductions in the district office rather than staff that's working directly with students. The decision to use 3.9 million of 2022 bond funds for the secondary language arts curriculum gives me a little pause. I'll be honest, I'm sure that this is allowed, but it isn't explicitly called out in the ballot measure. And I worry about erosion of community trust. I also want to thank the school board members for the May 13th meeting that they had, and just that really robust discussion about improving student safety in Beaverton. And I'm looking forward to seeing how the board and the district explore different models. I wonder if there's room for pilot programs or other things. I know that budget committee doesn't make these policy decisions. These are just thoughts I'm having. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty concerned about the assumptions used to create the budget that, as you said, are now pretty inaccurate given the revenue forecast. We know that the legislature has 500 million less left of discretionary funding based on the May forecast, which is what they will use to budget. So now there's $487 million left. We need 120 million to even get up to 11.4 billion. And then, as you said, I find it pretty hard to believe that the legislature is going to approve 200 million of special education funding plus whatever. There isn't a fiscal for removing the 11% cap. And so I'm not comfortable approving the budget at the current appropriation level. I'd like to reduce it. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have a question, Susan? All right, we'll continue going down the line. I should also mention that I think we're going to have time to loop back, see after everyone speaks if there are follow-up questions as well. So I just want to make sure I mention that. Zone 2, Dr. Perez.
Thank you again to the team, like people have mentioned. One of the things I've been thinking about is how we're going to need to step down our spending because we don't have, the reserve isn't going to be continuous. Once we spend it, it's gone, right? So as we're looking at the shifts and changes in the federal funding and thinking about our state funding, I think it's going to be important for us to start those conversations early of where is it that we will focus that stepping down of our spending over the next few years. And I think I'll leave it at that for now, but thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Perez. I'll go ahead and give my piece here from Zone 2, Budget Committee member. So I would definitely like to thank all those who came before who did get us in a pretty good place, especially with our reserves. For that reason, I do feel very confident and comfortable with the budget as it's proposed. Our district does have obviously a very diverse array of interests and lots of uncertainty right now, particularly with federal funding. But I see some positive things, especially, I know staffing is always a tough thing to, it's not, everything's not always apples and apples, but I think the staffing allocation model, from what I see, does a decent job of starting to adjust for changes in the student enrollment, and I see that as a positive. That should also help, I assume, to bring some of the budget costs down on personnel. I would share that my concern is also the deficit over time, but I am hearing that that's being obviously taken very seriously, and there's some plans in place already to address that going forward. So I feel very comfortable with this budget for this year. I'll go down to Dr. Potter, Zone 3.
Thank you. One, I want to point out that it's not too late to advocate during this long session. The state school fund is scheduled to move tomorrow out of Ways and Means, and it is $41 million short. So if you're so compelled while you're watching this online, hop on OLIS, find your senators and representatives' emails, and send them a quick little note saying we need to get all the support we can. So if you're concerned at all, please be typing right now to your legislators, because there's still things that we can do to advocate. So it's not too late, and hopefully we can collaborate across all of our districts and advocate for our students still before the long session ends. I do want to say thank you to the staff. BSD is in good standing to continue our service to our community. We're really fortunate to have the levy and the bond from our community support. We are also very fortunate for a very nice reserve because of hard decisions that board members made 8-10 years ago, and that set us up really nicely to have a softer landing during these times. I do want to point out that we are making some cuts to the central office, and those are that I appreciate that. It's keeping the cuts away from students, but at the central office, there is important work that is done to support our teachers and our students, and ultimately it will, over a long term, if that's what we continue to use as our way to cut, it will reduce support for teachers and students. And next year, we could have a similar budget outlook. And I appreciate the staff for helping us make structural alignments now so that we have a softer landing later. And those are hard decisions to make, and they're not easy, and we appreciate everyone's thought through that. I appreciate Gustavo's and the staff's plan for responsible use of funds so that we can have a good standing within our community and a good standing in our financial standing. That's overlooked, I think, sometimes, and we need that good financial standing to be able to continue to go out and get better rates and ask for funds from our community. And then I just want to, again, just thank our community for our support and thank our amazing staff and our students and our families to be able to continue to do this work. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dr. Sears?
Yeah, I also want to echo all of the thanks for how this has been handled so far. I feel like this was an amazing amount of information, and I really appreciate that the committee had access to all of this in advance. In terms of the budget, I do wonder historically if we have a pretty consistent trend of budgeted versus actuals, and how that may soften any, or exacerbate, I guess, depending on what direction that goes. But I believe you guys have already said that it tends to be expenditures are a little less than actuals. And I wonder how much we can expect that to soften any reduction in what we're expecting revenue-wise. And then, I feel like I will have more specific feedback later, but with the amount of information you gave us, I feel like we have so much amazing information that is so valuable that I'm realizing there's even more I would like to have for future years. And this is in no way a slight against any of you. I would not even realize that I would want this information had you not given us so much information already. So I do really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you. Zone 4, Sunita.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Mike, Jessica, and Dr. Valderez for the proposed budget, and of course, answering all the questions that were sent your way and being so prompt in explaining to us. What I feel is that anytime we do the proposed budget, there is uncertainty, and this time there is a little bit more. So as we go, we need to focus on the priorities for our kids, and I'm hoping the screeners and the systemic changes that we have made will start giving us some return on investment where we can actually be more efficient in our classroom, how we teach our kids. And I'm hopeful as we do curriculum changes that we do not take dollars away from professional development for our educators, because they will need that money, and our students will need that PD from our teachers need to be ready. And a math curriculum adoption is coming, science adoption is coming. We just did English adoption. So we need to be very thoughtful of how are we teaching our educators to be able to teach our kids with all these changes that are coming their way. The other thing that I would also would like is that we see these dollars going per student. We are spending this much per program. We are spending this much, but I would also like to see how we can connect that spending of the dollar with the returns that we are getting from those dollars. And I know that it is not just in the budget, but for the board members, it would be nice to know, okay, if we can see this survey or if we can see this data, then we can see that, okay, we spend this much money on this particular investment. How is it that helping our kids? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, Alok.
Thank you. I'll echo that same sentiment. There's a lot of hard work that goes into the detailed document, so appreciate all of that. And I think the only 2 points that I had, one was similar to what Sunita said, which is having a quantified AROI, as it's mentioned, and which sort of ties it to the efficiency. The other point I had was with the vision of academic excellence, the proportion of the budget that goes towards the gifted and talented, or which I think is maybe a misnomer, but I think just the idea should be, academic excellence. So how much are we doing towards academic excellence versus maintaining what I believe is maybe not as excellent of a goal. So I think those are the 2 points I've seen. Otherwise, great work. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn it over to Ugona.
Thank you so much, Mike, Gus, and Jessica. Thank you for creating this very robust document. The information is well captured and in-depth. And I want to appreciate the fact that while it saddens me that we're making cuts in our central office, I appreciate the fact that the cuts were kept away from the classrooms. I don't know how far that we can maintain this, but for the meantime, while that cut is not happening, I do appreciate it. And I also want to encourage and advise or beseech that we also continue to invest and make funds available for mental health support for our students, and also for resources for our students on special needs, IEPs or 504s as we go forward. Once again, thank you for creating this document. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn it over to Rika next.
Yeah, thank you for the budget, the proposal. I wanted to ask that I heard that you'll be making cuts to the admin in the school board. With that, will it affect a lot of admin work? How will you support that? I mean, that's very important too, to support the students and the teachers. So if there is cuts in the school board office, how are you going to support the admin work?
Most of the cuts that we took were essentially in two departments, in our operations department and in our teaching and learning departments. Close to 50-50 each-ish, right around there. On the operations side, it's always dicey, right? That we're budgeting them for less. So are they going to be able to do less? What does that mean? Equipment will break less? Does that mean, all the problems that come up will happen less? That may or may not be the case. But that's kind of the effect on the operations side that they'll be dealing with. The good news is we did pass a bond in 2022. We have been repairing and re-equipping and rebuilding schools, which takes some of that deferred maintenance off the table by having those new buildings. But it is something that we may see a reduction in service levels there. On the teaching and learning side, a lot of it is related to to professional development opportunities, substitutes, pulling teachers in for other activities. That's going to slow a little bit. It's not gone, but it'll certainly slow a little bit from what we've had in previous years. Does that help with kind of the flavor of what that might look like?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yeah. And also I had one more question on the reserves that you would be using, like Dr. Perez mentioned, that once the reserves are used, it's gone, right?
Right.
How do we keep up with that? How do we maintain that we have reserves?
Yeah, I think our goal has been to cut modestly over many years instead of waiting till the end and having one large cut all at one time. So our deficit is in the $19 million range. If the PERS rate reduction happens and we don't get the $200 million on special education, that will increase that to about $21 million in terms of a deficit. So going from 19 to 21, it's a little bit of an increase. What we'll do is we'll spend some time next year trying to cut into that deficit and lessen it for the following year. So we'll take a look at, if we think the deficit the following year is going to be at 30 million, maybe we'll take a look at a target of 15 or something like that to say, how do we take small bites of the apple instead of trying to eat the whole thing at once? So that's kind of our approach.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move over to Zone 6. Justice?
One, thank you for another, I think, well put together budget. I mean, it's my second time going through this process. I feel like we had good information. There's still lots of things to work on, and I echo the sentiment that the more I learn about our budgets, the more questions I have about everything. But there's only so much one can get through in one window. I think my overriding thought is, in order to get to cuts in restructuring things or doing whatever we need to do as a district so we can get our costs down, that it's going to take a big lift and effort from everyone involved, from us as the board, from the administration, from our working units, and from our community to help us figure out what can we do so that we can be closer to where we're within our means without making drastic changes to the learning experience that our kids focus on. And it's going to take a lot from everyone for us to get there. So I'm just more of an ask or a statement to the community that I want us to be aware of that and think about that as we move into this next school year and move on from this current budget process. So thank you.
Okay, turn it over to Amy next.
Thank you. This is my first year. I'm kind of learning the ropes and understanding the process, and so largely just wanted to defer to the insight and expertise of the the Budget Review Committee, my colleagues on the committee here, but also wanted to just express my gratitude to Jessica, Mike, to Dr. Balderas about for having put together this comprehensive budget and for guiding us through kind of some of the realities of where we're at, and just a very balanced assessment, which I appreciate and I know our community appreciates, and echo the sentiments of my colleagues here that it sounds like the cuts are hard, and but that I appreciate the that you have kept some arm's length from the students. And I appreciate the financial management and the diligence behind that financial management over the many years that I was not here to appreciate, but I see the effects now because it is not quite so painful as I think it would have been. So I appreciate all of you, and just feel very fortunate to be part of this process. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. All right, Dr. Carpenter, Zone 7.
Thank you. I didn't see the school support tax as a part of this budget, and I know that's a decision that the board makes. I am concerned, and I've been asking about it for a little while, that, and if I'm misnaming it, I apologize, it's that one where we got to vote between 15 and 30% of the tax abatement that is allowed for businesses in year 4s and 5. Of course, I don't have the details right, but.
Yeah, we won't see results of that in terms of what it generates for a couple of years, right?
That's not my question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
No
My
worries.
question is that we voted as a board for the lower rate, the lowest possible rate, and that I was concerned in that moment that that would become evergreen and that we wouldn't be able to revisit it. But Dr. Balderas and I have talked about it, and I was reassured that that would come back to us. I guess I thought it'd be part of the budget process, and I don't see it in here. So concerned that June 2nd, we won't have time for 2 readings of that before we, I don't know what the deadline is. So putting that out there that I didn't notice it in here, and hopefully we can get to that before.
Yeah, there's not a vote this year on it. I don't believe so. I think it's every 5 years.
My understanding at the time was that we would vote for that year's assessment.
I'll go back and look, but I don't believe so.
So we committed to 5 years at the lowest possible rate.
I believe so. But I'll go back and look to be sure. And you wouldn't see it as a part of the budget process because we have no revenue coming from that source,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And like I said, I thought it was going to be part of the budget season. I haven't seen it yet. And, we've talked, and my understanding was that we would revisit that. And
I think there is a sunset to it, but I don't know the exact timeline, Dr. Carpenter. I'll find out.
okay. Thank you. That's disappointing. And then thank you for answering my question about the surveillance cameras in the public safety budget. And thank you for including the board policy that has oversight. I think there is a number of questions that aren't answered in that that give me pause to want to almost triple the program. It doesn't say how it's used in discipline. It doesn't say how we decide to share video with police. It doesn't say if SROs have access to the video without a warrant. And I have a lot of anxiety. I've reached out to ACLU Oregon, and they've shared that they've done studies and that surveilling our students, very similar to our SRO programs, impacts our most marginalized communities, our LGBT community, our students of color, mental health, students struggling with mental health. And so having an expansion of that without fully understanding why we're surveilling our students and how it's used in discipline, I will just briefly share that a mom talked about having a third grader that was disciplined at school, goes in, talks to the principal. Principal says, we got him on the camera, hitting another student. And mom says, the other kid called him the N-word. And so the principal said, we don't have audio. And so in my mind, I'm like, that's only half the story. And it, again, I'm hearing it secondhand. So that's fair, but I would love to understand better before we expand surveillance of our students, how it's used in discipline. and to more fully understand that before we move to further do that. So I would really love it if we can, and I know it's part of the bond, I get that, but to put that on the back burner until we better understand how it is that we are surveilling our students.
I think the board's already approved the spending of this fund.
And I think as new information comes to light, I'm seeing it in the budget for this year. And yes, the board already approved it. I am very uncomfortable with expanding it. And budget season is never the time to do program tweaks. I totally get that. And budget season is a clarifying moment. And budgets are moral documents. And we are telling our community that we intend to expand surveillance of our students. And I feel very uncomfortable moving forward. So I get all of the priors. I get that we have a policy. And for me, this is really concerning. So just wanted to share, and maybe we can be more deliberate before we expand surveilling our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Schultz.
Well, thanks again to the district for the professionalism and cooperation with the budget committee, and also just being so consistent over the years. It's really nice. I feel like we kind of know what to expect from you all, and that I really appreciate you being so open to our questions. And probably the most concerning thing is the uncertainty that the district is facing. And also, the one thing that is certain is that you're going to be spending down those reserves. And I would say that if there's probably to make that all go more smoothly is going to require a lot of communication, and probably communication that's channels that aren't there now. I think that the general public, what I've observed at least in higher ed, is that people really think, I've asked people, do you realize there's going to be big changes coming? And they're kind of like, no, not really. So I would say the general public, and that includes, parents and community members, don't really understand that there is the potential for some really huge challenges, and they've never witnessed those before. So I would encourage the district to start strategizing for a communication plan, and to get community members on board. It's we are going to go out at some point for more bonds or option levies, or we don't really know what that future is going to look like. But for sure, we're not going to do very well if we just rely on the public listening to. I'm very disappointed in the media in how they've been addressing things. They'll put out a headline, but I don't feel like the communication channels are in place to really educate people about how government, and that includes school districts, work. And so the more that you can, start thinking early on about strategizing about how to communicate and enlist the support of the community would be helpful. Because I know, Susan, you were there when we just had like an incredibly terrible year, and people come because they're upset because they see the changes, and that's great. It's great that they are, care enough to be upset, but that's not going to get you, it's not going to get the district through the climate that I think that you're going to be facing. So anyway, thank you for everything, and Godspeed.
Okay, so now we've gone through each zone, and we've heard from each budget committee member as well as school board member. Before we move on to the next agenda item, which would be a vote for approval, or I want to make sure that we don't have any other questions. Susan?
Sorry, all of a sudden I lost my voice. I just also want to remind all of us of the implications of the cuts potentially to Medicaid and the impact on our most marginalized families in the school district. And I definitely don't want to forget about that. And I also wanted to comment about, there was an Oregonian article, I think it was in the newspaper yesterday or sometime, you kind of lose track of time, about the state of Oregon. There's more older people in this state than younger people in this state. And so there's an impact in terms of our, the amount of money that's going to come to education. There's going to be higher needs, I think, but less money coming to our district, and because of population changes. So I just wanted to highlight that as well as we're thinking about things.
Thank you. Last call online. Are there any other questions or concerns? Dr. Perez?
Yeah, I had just forgotten to say that I am actually very confident with our budget. I appreciate the way that we've been able to ask questions and get answers along the way. I've appreciated how we asked last year that the budget be focused on our strategic plan and have those connections. That strategic plan that was built by our community alongside our community, and that I noticed that made for easier reading each year for me in the budget. And then also wanted to thank our community, like several of you mentioned, our community has given us the bond to be able to continue to do the seismic work or the maintenance work for our buildings, and to continue to improve those spaces for students and our staff. And then also for the levy, passing of the levy that's allowed us to keep our 300 of our educators on board, even with these different shifts and changes. And it's exciting to know that PERS might give us a little break, because I know that cost continues to go up each year, and has been something that we've been watching closely. So thank you for those pieces too.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Perez. Any last comments or questions? Okay, I'll move on to the next agenda item, approval of budget and tax levies. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve, and in front of you is the language that we need to use for that motion, which sums up exactly what we are voting on here. So do I have a motion to approve?
I wasn't sure who was going to do it. I move that the Beaverton School District budget in the amount of $1,660,798,865 for all funds for 25-26 be approved. The permanent tax rate of $4.693 per $1,000 of assessed value be assessed in support of the general fund. A local option levy tax rate of $1.25 per $1,000 of assessed value be, assessed in support of the general fund, and a tax of $95,706,806 be approved for the service of bonded debt obligations of the school district. And that.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, we'll take it to a vote. We'll please just leave your hand up for a minute. Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, looks like I have, I think, if I counted right, that was 13 out of 14. So budget approved. Okay. Okay, so it looks like next on the agenda are the closing remarks. I just would, for myself, just thank everybody for your patience as your chairperson and learning what this is on the fly. I've enjoyed it immensely, and appreciate everyone's time and just eager energy to do what's best for our students. So thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Balderas.
And I'll be brief as well. So the Budget Committee is correct that there's a lot of unknowns left to be seen from the federal government. I think from what I see, there's no Title II in the current federal budget ongoing. And also flat funding for the rest of the title programs, which is going to be a reduction because there's no cost increases. So whatever, it's flat service. And also in the out years, a 15% reduction overall in our spending on education at the federal level. So that's in the out years. So there's going to be more changes coming. And I think there's more changes coming also in Oregon, as Mike spoke about that earlier as well with regards to PERS changes and also the flux that is the state budget right now. There's going to be a a lot more flux coming. So it's a lot of unknowns, but I think we have, again, it's been said also by the board, we're very, very fortunate to have a reserve. And many districts, I think almost every district doesn't have that opportunity in Oregon. So when I'm talking to my peers statewide, it is, they're not in the same place. Their budget committee meeting rooms that are filled right now. There's people that are losing jobs, and these are real people. These are real people, employees that are losing work right now. We had a job fair. Almost 400 people showed up from all over the state for a job fair here in this very room because of unemployment, because of reductions. So I don't take that. I'm very honored to be here in front of you with this budget, but also know that we're going to have to make tough decisions. And these tough decisions are going to be, will impact staff more greatly. There's only so much you can cut at the district office. Again, we're a fraction of the cost of spending. You know, we're 90% people. I think we just need to look at how we can reduce it in a manner that limits the impact on our students in the classroom. Because that's what the community expects, and that's what we need to do. So just thank you for your time, your commitment. Again, it's a lot, but also kudos to the staff, because this is as good a budget book as you'll find anywhere in the United States. It's incredibly well done. It's very informative, and it's a good read for anyone coming in. So just thank you very much for your work, and really kudos to the staff. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Balderas. All right. And with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.